Perhaps you've been thinking about making an offer on a house, or maybe you've already made an offer on a house and you were the only buyer to make that offer. Or maybe it was a multiple offer situation where other buyers made offers too, because guess what? That's still happening in many instances. What can you expect to happen next? That's what we're talking about in this episode of Real Estate Unlocked. Hi, I'm Melissa Spittle, the local real estate expert licensed in Maryland and Pennsylvania. Let's talk about what happens after making an offer on a house. First, the sellers will review your offer and any other offers they may have received. I'm often asked, how long do the sellers have to make a decision? When will we hear something back? There's actually no set timeline in which home sellers must review offers and make a decision. Sometimes they will set a deadline to receive offers. When this happens, they usually make a decision within the next day or so. It all depends on when the sellers and their real estate listing agent are available to meet and discuss any offers they've received. Unless your offer contains a deadline for them to respond by, you may hear something the next day, the same day, or it could be a few days. So it's important to be patient while you're waiting for the sellers to respond. There are a variety of factors sellers take into consideration when making their decision regarding any offers they receive. They're going to weigh the pros and cons of offers they receive because they're looking for the best possible offer on their house. So let's talk about what home sellers will look at when they're making their decision. They're going to look at your pre-approval letter. Why? Because they want to know from the very beginning that you can get approved for a loan to buy their house. They're going to look at the closing date you include in your offer. Why? Because it needs to coincide with their plans to move out of their house. If they've already moved, they might want to close on their house sooner rather than later. They're going to consider your type of financing. Why? Because different types of loans have different requirements. There are certain types of loans that require certain repairs if the house isn't in tip-top shape. They may or may not be willing to make any of those repairs. They will consider the amount of the earnest money deposit a buyer is willing to put down up front. Why? Because a buyer who puts down a higher earnest money deposit is putting more skin in the game and is typically considered a stronger buyer. They will also consider whether you're able to pay your share of your closing costs. Why? Because people want to make the most money they can make when selling a house. When a buyer needs closing cost assistance from a seller, it cuts into the seller's profit. If you need the seller to provide help for your closing costs and another buyer doesn't, that can be a big deal. Another thing they will look at is the price you're offering to pay. Why? Because once again, they want to sell their house for as much as they possibly can. If there are multiple offers, they might see if you included an escalation clause in your offer. An escalation clause is when a buyer says, I'm willing to pay X amount of dollars more than someone else up to a certain limit. Why can this be important to home sellers? Because, once again, they want to sell their house for as much as possible. They will also look to see if you want to have any inspections done. Now, let's face it, you probably don't want to buy a house with unknown issues, but inspections can give a buyer the opportunity to back out of the sale. And then the seller has to start all over again with getting offers. So if one buyer makes an offer and wants inspections, and another buyer doesn't want to have any inspections, sellers can be more interested in the ones who don't want any inspections. Now, I'm not saying don't have any inspections done. I'm just saying that it's something that home sellers might take into consideration. If you offer more than the list price, sellers will want to know if you can pay the difference if the house doesn't appraise. When competing with other buyers, it's not unusual for someone to offer more than the list price so they can have the best chance of getting the house. Why is this important to sellers? Because sellers want to know that if you offer more, you have the money to make up the difference if the house appraises for less. Another thing sellers consider are any contingencies in the offer. Why? Because contingencies are things that can cause the deal to fall apart. Inspections are considered a contingency. It's also a contingency if you have a house to sell in order to buy another one. It's a contingency when you need to get a loan to buy the house. So sellers take a look at the things that you need to have happen in order for you to follow through with buying their house. The more contingencies there are, the greater the chance that the deal could fall apart and the seller will need to start all over again. Understand though, not all of these factors come into play for every offer that is made on a house. So if you're going to be making an offer on a house, you ultimately need to include what you're comfortable with offering. Now let's talk about what happens after the sellers have made a decision. Their seller's agent will notify all the buyer's agents who submitted offers for their buyers. Your real estate buyer's agent will learn whether the seller selected a different offer, your offer, whether they're countering your offer with different terms, or whether they're downright saying no to your offer. When the seller chooses your offer, your real estate agent will then notify you of the great news. Let's now talk about what happens after you get that good news that your offer was accepted.
Hooray!
You'll need to provide your earnest money quickly. You'll also need to formally apply for your loan. Shortly after that, you'll need to pay your lender for the appraisal so it can be completed. If you're having any inspections done, they will need to be done within the first week or two. After all that's done, you'll be in frequent communication with your lender and provide the documents they need. You'll have things to sign. The appraisal will be done. You can expect the loan process to take about 30 days. Settlement will then be scheduled as well. Know that sometimes the settlement date can change, so you'll need to be prepared for a possible change in that date. As you can probably see by now, it's a step-by-step process. My job is to help you get from beginning to end and to make sure the terms of the contract are followed. Buying a house is exciting. Some buyers get the first house they make an offer on. Some buyers have to make offers on several different houses before they can get a house. It all comes down to how strong the offer is, if it works for the seller, and whether other buyers are making an offer on that same house. Do you have questions? Reach out at any time. Let my experience and expertise guide you every step of the way. And don't forget to download a free copy of the Ultimate Home Buying Guide. The description box has the link.